Hi, I am Reagan Zog. I just wanted to introduce myself a little bit. I am from Shelley, Idaho. I just recently graduated from Utah State University with a bachelor's in elementary education. I student taught at Edith Bowen Laboratory School in 5th grade with Jan Farmer. And that's just a little bit about my background. I also did a 5-week practicum in Nibley Elementary in 2nd grade. And for my STEAM lesson plan, I used a previous arts integration lesson that I had made where I combined science and art for a 4th grade classroom based on the science standard of 4.2.1, which is constructing an explanation to describe the cause and effect relationship between the speed of an object and the energy of the object. And so it's broken into 2 parts to initially introduce speed and energy of objects, and then integrate the art section through doing a pendulum painting where students would hold a water bottle that has paint in it and that has been watered down so that it can escape through a hole in the lid to kind of contain the mess a little bit, where they hold it and they create their own pendulum using their fingers or their hand as the stabilizer. But then to add in another STEAM element, I wanted to use engineering, where students on the 2nd day, we would do a review of what we had learned the day before, and then using different materials like popsicle sticks or pencils or tape and glue, they could engineer their own different pendulum and try out a different way to create that pendulum painting and mess around more with speed and energy of an object to see more of that relationship so that they can develop a deeper understanding of that concept. Also, because this was a lesson that I had previously used, I made some tweaks that I think would be useful. It also dives pretty deep into the arts integration side of it, and then I added in the technology. Again, I would do this in a 2-part lesson, mainly because I felt like when I taught this the first time, it was a lot going on already, and if I were to add in a 3rd STEAM element in that same 45-minute lesson time, it would be too much for me to control and effectively give instructions, and for my students to effectively understand what was going on, which kind of leads into how it is important and useful to establish clear rules and procedures while maintaining positive classroom environment. I think a positive classroom environment is very conducive to student learning and achievement, and I think the best way to establish those clear boundaries and rules and procedures is through practice, giving examples of what those procedures will look like and constantly reteaching and repracticing those, and giving students the opportunity to try again when they might mess up. For example, in student teaching, we had the expectation and the rule of being quiet in the hall. And when my students once we would get out in the hall, and if I heard them talk, I would say, "Oh, I heard some talking. We're going to go back to the classroom and we're going to try again." Or if it was just one student, I had them walk by me, or I would go walk by them, and I would demonstrate how walking silently in the hall looks. And I think that it's important for students to see what those rules and procedures look like. And when they're seeing that, it's helping to build that positive classroom environment, because you're not constantly verbally reminding them, you're visually reminding them of what this looks like. And not every student learns in the same way. So offering these different ways of how these procedures and the rules look and teaching them in different ways, I think helps create that positive environment, because students know exactly what is expected and how it looks, and they never wonder at what they need to do or what it's supposed to look like.